Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for
Yes.
having me.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. Well, look, we've worked together for a while, then stopped, then back again, and but you've had a great story, and I love how you got into the business and kind of what you've done and accomplished, but what you're building. And so I wanted to have you on to kind of go through that. So let me start with, what did you do before you even got into real estate?
Oh, I was a hairstylist. I owned a salon. I think I was like 16 years in that business.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then did you just like, hey, I'm going to sell this thing or I'm going to get out, or what prompted the
Well,
like
I
16 years is a long time to have your own business
it
too.
was a long time. I was a little tired. Like standing on your feet in one position for, 10, 11 hours a day and then
That's
having to
true.
actually be there to make the money was I recognize, right? Like that's not a sustainable business.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got pregnant. That's really what I already had these thoughts leading up. And then when I got pregnant, I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to be the mom I wanted to be.
Mm. Now, did you have employees? Like,
Yeah, and
how
I
big was your shop?
I owned I had a airbrush spray tan studio, so I had that little business going, and then a shop. We had like 5 chairs, so it was pretty small.
Okay.
And yeah, so I was like, okay, I got to figure something else out. And I had actually tried to talk my brother into getting real estate out of when he got out of the military, and he didn't end up doing it. And so that vision kind of came back to me, and I was like, oh, look at me forcing my own like vision upon my brother, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that would actually work for me. I could, increase my income ceiling and also be present for my daughter. So it was really about freedom.
Yeah. I
So
like that.
yeah,
Now, what made you suggest it to him?
because I thought it would be cool. Like but I was already so committed in my business that I didn't feel like I could do it. But I thought, man, someone could really crush it at this.
Yeah. Okay. So how'd you make the jump?
I just went to school and knocked it out.
Got the license, but then did you sell the business?
No, I
How would the
didn't.
exit look like?
Bad exit. Yeah.
Okay.
Looking back, I wish I would have done some things different, but all in all, like all those things like get you where you are. And now I know a lot more about business after making mistakes, right? That's where you learn the most, right? When you fail.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just went into real estate. I still continue to work for about the first year doing hair a couple days a week so that I could at least pay my bills while I got going because this business is, I think, what the failure rate is like 80% of people fail in the first 5 years.
I think it's 87%.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew it had a high failure rate, so I just needed to insulate myself. So I did. And then finally, one of my coaches was like, okay, set a date to be done with the other.
Wow.
I was like, okay. So
Okay, so wait, so you already had a coach. So how did you get in? So did you go, hey, I got my license now, I'm just going to hang with that brokerage and be on my own, or did you
Yes.
jump on a team, or
Nope,
so
there's no
solo?
team.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to figure this out on my own, or did you have a mentor there, or
I mean, there's people around at the office, but I'm the kind of person that just figures it out, so I just jumped in, figured it out. Yeah, I realize, right? Like Michael Jordan has a coach at a elite level. I'm like brand new. I probably should get a coach.
that's cool that you realized that so
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah. I didn't tell my husband at the time. Like, I'm not telling him about this expense over here.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to hide that.
Yeah. But so yeah, I had a coach so that way I could, I needed to get there quickly. And I knew that would probably be the fastest path.
Yeah. So what's some of the stuff that your coach had you doing? Now, how many years ago is this?
Oh, I think this is my 11th year.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I called expireds, I called for sale by owners, I pulled Violet in a wagon and door knocked. That's really how I built
Wow.
my business.
Okay. That's some cool pillars of business. That school of hard knocks.
Yeah, I don't want to go back to that, but so when I got myself to a place where I'm like, okay, now I can do it a different way, I kind of leaned more into my database at that point.
How long did that take to where you made the change? Because I totally get it. I talked to an agent, they're brand new, they don't have a database to call, so they're like, okay, I need to do some of the other activities, and maybe it's the for sale by owners, maybe it's the expired, it's canceled, maybe it's door knocking, right? Those are all things to do when I'm brand new. But at what point did you feel, hey, I've got an established group of people, I can now start focusing my energy on database sphere?
I think calling for sale by owners and expireds, that's hard. So I think it was just to the point where I just didn't want to do that anymore. And I had done enough sales where I'm like, okay, I've got some sort of database. And I think I learned a really crucial lesson in real estate about relationships.
What was that?
Just they're really valuable, and that people do love you, and and so I started to just operate a little differently inside my relationships. And then I was like, oh, this is actually fun. I could just have coffee and dinner with people and, do the fun things, like the social things. So I kind of made it about social. I started having parties.
What kind of parties?
Whatever kind of parties, happy hours. I did a pie party, I did that consistently.
Fun.
And just other small intimate parties, like little wine tastings and just whatever I thought was fun.
That's cool.
I guess, yeah.
Are you still doing that now?
Some of it, yeah. I still do the small things.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the last one you did that you felt was successful?
Oh, I just did a sound bath healing. It's like do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what I've never done it.
Yeah.
But I've read about it.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's kind of like meditation with like sound. So
different frequencies.
Yeah.
Make the body relax.
I'm like, so I just invited a bunch of women and like, let's do this.
That's cool.
They
now, were they
loved
all
it.
clients of yours?
Yeah, clients and friends, like combo.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Sphere,
great. I heard someone say a couple weeks ago, I was at a coaching event, and they said, we're in the relationship business. We just happen to be doing real estate.
That's right.
Right.
That's what I figured out, basically, right?
Because in the beginning, it's a job.
Yeah.
They're transactions. I mean, they're people, but it's not true relationships. And then later on, you're like, wow, these are relationships.
Yeah.
And I just need to nurture those.
Well, I started realizing, like, I keep helping all these people that are, like, strangers to me. Don't you think the people that are, like, I'm in relationship with could use my help? Turns out I'm kind of good at my job. Like,
yes.
I'm sure they can benefit from me. And so the light bulb just kind of went off one day. And I was like, well, Ben Marquez, you know him. He's the one that really changed my vision there. So that was pretty cool.
And how did he do that?
We were having a conversation. He's like, you just don't get it, Kandis. And then I was like, okay, tell me more. And then we just had a conversation around relationships. And it dawned on me. I was like, oh, okay.
And that's where you started going deeper into the events and parties. And yeah.
And it's been cool. So now I get to just operate my business through my life.
That's more fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, what's the personal journey been along with real estate?
Oh, say more. Like, what do you want to know?
Well, you've had some changes in your relationship status.
Oh, yeah.
But you've successfully navigated that. So that's why I want to talk about that, because not many people can.
Yeah, I think, I think that we started to go different ways when I got really busy in real estate. And I just kind of had a different vision for my life, and then he had a different vision, so we just weren't on the same page. So that's when we decided to, divorce. And by the way, we're super good friends.
Yeah.
And
that's what I mean. You guys vacation together. Yeah.
And our kid is just very well-rounded and a great kid. So I'm super proud of our relationship. So yeah, divorce can actually look like healthy. So anyway, so I was able to, he ended up keeping the house. And I helped us, I worked through the process of like getting an appraisal and figuring all that out. So that way, and helped him, refinance so that he could pay me out. And we both felt like that was the best choice for our family. So Violet could still stay in the house, and then I just moved not too far away, and then kind of had to reinvent myself. I left that marriage with a very low credit score, low self-confidence, that I would ever be able to do for myself what I help others do. And it did take me a while, about 4 years, to really rebuild myself, my credit, and now I own several homes, and my own home, and I'm an investor now. So it's been a pretty cool journey to be able to have all that experience in order to guide clients to help them either navigate a divorce, because it happens a lot. I don't know what the divorce rate is. I should probably know that, but I think it's quite high.
Yeah.
And so when someone has like trusted advisor, and then also somebody that has actually been through the process, and that can shed personal experience, I think it goes a long way. And I've just kind of found I have a little knack for it in a way of like being a little bit of a mediator between the two parties. Because it's already stressful selling a home regardless, and then you add the other components of a divorce, and it's very high stress. And so I ended up getting a certification in divorce real estate because I was like, oh, I see a major opportunity that people really need someone to be in their corner. And so to help bring two people together in order for one common goal.
Yes. So there's a term in Arizona, it's collaborative divorce.
Yeah.
Where everyone's coming to the table, cards face up. Hey, what's the best for everybody? And it typically includes, financial mortgage person, wealth manager, fiduciary, real estate agent, sometimes counselors, but all in the same vein of the one common goal. And I think that you navigated that yourself, through your own thing, collaboratively.
That's exactly. We didn't hire attorneys. We both said like we are humans that love each other.
Yeah.
We want to go in different paths. Like we can do this. And we did it. And so before I even knew what collaborative divorce was. And then through getting, the certification in divorce, I realized there was something called collaborative divorce.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh.
I kind of invented it.
Yeah.
Well, so when you went through that process yourself, what did you learn that's different in the real estate process when going through as a divorce sale than like a traditional sale?
Well, I think there's more things to consider, right? Like, I guess, well, maybe ask me again. Ask me.
Well, I think like if I sell a traditional sale house, right, to a client, and you could even be doing on the purchase side of it, versus when you're dealing with the divorce side of it, because now there's someone else to pay out on that side. There's other things to consider that maybe traditionally previously as a real estate agent, like, man, I wasn't even thinking about deferred maintenance or
yes, yeah,
right.
Okay, that's where you're going. Yes, 100%. I agree. So I think when I sit down with people and they have me out for a consultation, I've got to make sure that it's the right decision to actually sell. So that's really how I approach it first. I'm like, is there one spouse that wants to keep it, that could keep it? So then I can work through that with them and see how that shakes out and what the other spouse needs to do. So if one spouse is going to keep it, deferred maintenance is a thing. Right, because essentially that spouse that's going to keep the house is buying it, so they have to act like a buyer. So they should do an inspection. Yes. Right.
That's a good perspective.
Because an appraisal doesn't take into consideration condition. So we have to make sure that there's not a lot of deferred maintenance that's going to come up in that first year of a spouse, getting this property.
Right.
So there's things like that to consider. And then I think clients are most considered, like if they decide to sell the home, that they're most considered about the net, because then they have to split that, and they have to figure out how to navigate that process. So being able to walk them through like the expenses of selling and what that's going to look like and what they're going to take away. Right.
That's a good point.
And just getting in front. I think a big key for agents and for them is to like shelter some of their stress. So it's like getting in front of it ahead of time.
That's a good point.
So I like to have a lot of those conversations up front at the listing appointment. Here's what you're going to expect. Here's what this could look like. Be prepared for this. So then when we, come up against it, like they've already heard it. They already knew.
Right. Proactive versus reactive.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a guide, and the best is the person that's already gone there.
Yeah.
They're on their way back, right?
Right.
And asking them the directions.
So ultimately that made me just a better agent all around, right?
Yes.
When I approached it from that way, now I approach it that way for everybody, whether they're going through a divorce or not.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the rebuild. So after that, you said took you 4 years, rebuild the credit, and then get back into, and then not even just to purchase a home, but multiple properties to then have that extra revenue coming in to subsidize, because I don't have a 2-income household anymore.
That's right.
So you created your own 2-income household and multiple income because of the rental properties.
Yeah, well, and to be fair and transparent, I had never really saved because I'd always just been making money and just always make more money, Greg. And
which is super common for everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't have credit card debt, but I just didn't have anything really planned. And so I needed my vision for myself was to recoup what I didn't do. Right.
Yeah.
And I knew that I could build wealth faster through real estate.
Why?
oh, it's appreciation, and someone else is paying it, it off for me. So I knew I had to get into a home for myself and then start investing.
Yes.
And so that's what I did. And so, it did, and I'm not generating a ton per month right now, but I know if I use the compound calculator, I know what my life's going to look like,
Yes.
in 10, 20 years, because we look at the history of real estate.
Yep.
And it's always gone up.
Was this something that you kind of self-discovered, or, obviously you'd been in the business for a few years already, or was this something your coach came to you and said, hey, we need to start doing this?
It was self-discovery.
Okay.
I think I just, I'm just aware. So I'm looking at key players in my industry, like what are they doing? What's going on? What's the theme here? And then investors, and you just, you start to see, and then you work with people, and then you see what they're netting after they've sold. You can start to figure it out.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is pretty cool.
I think a lot of people are unaware.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the number one regret of people that sell property is that they sold the property. If there's a way to keep the property, if you look back at the 3 or 4 or 5 houses you've sold in your past, and you talk to clients that you've sold multiple properties, they bought more, and you say, what if we had been able to figure out a way to keep that one, get it rented out? Yes, it's harder, but you figure out a way to do that and get the next one. What would it look like if you had those other 4 properties? What would that value be today? What would your total net worth be today? And you think that number is just a crazy number. And if you can then get ahead of that, like you said, and say, hey, let's plan for this. Brandon, hey, let's plan for this, man. Let's get this in, let's get into this one. In a couple of years, let's visit and say, you've saved up X amount of money. Is there a way to do something else?
Yes.
Do something else. And in 10 or 15 years, what does your life now look like?
That's right.
And if you can take people through that exercise now you're setting them up to even have a bigger impact on their life.
Yes, 100% I agree with you, because that's one of my biggest regrets. I sold 2 of my properties that I had purchased. One when I was like 20, my early 20s. I sold it. I'd have over $1 million in the bank right now.
Oh my gosh.
No, so talk about that tough lesson. So but I'm like, okay, how can I?
You learn from it.
I learn from it.
Can't rewind the clock.
That's right. And how can I try to help my clients not make the same mistake? So I'm always like, I'll sell this house for you. Trust me. And I'll do a great job. But do we really need to sell the house?
That's really cool to hear that, someone who makes their money off of selling and buying real estate will tell the person, hey, I don't think you should, let's figure out a way not to sell it so I don't get paid, and I'll just get paid on the purchase of this one.
There's
right?
certain
Not getting
times,
2 purchases, right? I'm not going to get 2 deals. I'm just going to get paid half.
Yeah. I got to do what's right in my heart. And I don't chase the money. Like, I got to make money. Don't get me wrong. I got to make a living because this is what I do. But I just know for me, it feels good to operate from the heart. And I got to learn all these lessons. So let me help you.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. Well, and when you operate from the heart and the money doesn't matter, right, as the upfront reason, the money will come later.
Oh, yeah. I'll always be taken care of.
Yes.
God always got me.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
So with your investors, let's talk about investment properties because I'm into this. Is there what are some of the things you look for when looking for that investment property for a client?
Well, I think budget determines a lot. Let's be honest. You may want to be in Arcadia, but budget, so I think I start there always, you know. And what we can afford to buy. And then I try to get the very best thing in the very best neighborhood where we can afford it.
Are there some characteristics, when you say the best neighborhood, what are some of the characteristics of that neighborhood that make it ideal for an investment property, like as a rental?
I think we look at schools.
Okay.
I think we look at number of bedrooms, because if I can get more bedrooms, I can get more more money a month. So that's always a thing. Condition, right? Because I want you to have the least amount of hassles, especially if you're a newer investor. So do
you look for, when you say condition, does that also include like the age of the property? Like, would you say, hey, I'm not going to look for something that's 30 years old for you. I'm going to look for something that's like 30 and never remodeled versus, hey, this one's, newly remodeled within the last 5 years. Or, hey, this one was new built 10 years ago.
Yes.
So there's some criteria to that?
I'll do a 30-year, I'll do a very old home if it's been renovated and I know that the inspection checks out.
Okay.
You know, I've been doing this long enough now that I can go into a property and know kind of what to expect. My inspector always teases me. He's like, I wish you'd come work for me and become an inspector. And I'm like, no.
I can't make as much money.
No. That is way too hot and
I
sweaty.
stay in my lane.
Yeah.
That is true. Those guys are crawling through the crawl space and,
You know.
oh my gosh.
So, I mean, you know, condition. That's why I say condition. Like,
Yep.
it might, like the house that I was at right before I came here, it was built in the 30s. But I can tell, like, some of the sewer had been replaced. You know, the condition was decent, had been remodeled. I got the seller property disclosure statement up front. So I kind of knew a little bit more history about the property.
Oh, good.
So some things like that. You know, I think in a neighborhood that is kind of slated to be up and coming, where I can tell where growth is pushing into a neighborhood. So I'll look at certain things like that and
Okay.
make recommendations for that. And I think that was like one of the considerations with our current buyer, Brandon. You know, it is for his primary residence, but I'm also having those conversations about turning him into an investor. So and then he would in turn ask me, okay, Candice, between these two homes, what's the better investment? Because there's two neighborhoods. And so we had that conversation
That's great.
about the different neighborhoods and what I thought would be a better investment long term.
What made this one stand out more over the other one in that conversation?
I think location ideally, and then it just has, you know, the neighborhood is actively going through like the regentrification process.
Okay.
It's in Coronado, so I thought, and that's, you know, kind of a highly sought after historic neighborhood. So I thought that was probably a better choice.
It's kind of a timeless area,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be perfect for him, and it's his vibe too. So
Good.
it kind of matches both
Yeah.
both things.
I just like that you have that long-term thought, like not like, oh yeah, here's the home, here's the area you're looking in. Do you like it? Great. Let's get it. Versus, you know, and I don't mean that everybody does that. I'm just saying that could be a thing. Most consumers are like that. Like, oh, I want to be in that area. That looks like my price range. Can we see that one? Okay. And then you're thinking, okay, well, let's take a step back and think it through to make sure you're making a good long-term decision for having options later. So resale value later, it'll sell
That's right.
resale better there. If you were to want the option to rent it out, it's going to be a more sought after rental community. It's near this school, this hospital, this
Yep.
strip mall, this grocery stores, things like that. Like it's in an area where 5-10 years down the road, we'll be able to sell it or rent it out. You'll have the option.
That's right. I always joke around like, why am I so tired after I show homes? I keep asking myself for years. I'm like, what? Why am I so tired? I was just driving around. But I realized that because I'm doing so much thinking, like you're saying, like I'm thinking about that for them. I'm thinking about this. And, you know, so much is going into the thought process. That
Yeah.
It takes so much energy to think,
Yeah.
you know, as someone else. So, I mean, but that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to protect them at every turn,
That's awesome.
you know?
Your brain is just processing so much information.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking in so many different directions for them.
Yes.
Because they don't know.
They don't
Like you
know.
said, that you walking around with a certain awareness that they don't have. And that's why they're hiring you, is to have the education that you have of,
That's right.
you know, 11 years.
The expertise.
Yeah. So what's next for you in your business? So you have your business set up now. It's running well. Is it, hey, I like this, how it is? Or is there what's the 3 or 5 year vision for you?
I mean, you know, I've moved more into luxury. I still do anything and everything. I don't discriminate. Like, people are people. I just want to help people. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy at this place. You know, I get to be the mom I want to be. I've got a great business, and I get to help people. Really, that's it.
That's awesome.
That's
When you
it.
say luxury, is that a certain neighborhood, certain price point? What's
I mean,
luxury?
yeah, I would say anything above $1.5 million.
Okay.
Would probably be considered luxury, depending on what part of the valley. But yeah, that's why I made the move to RETSY, just to kind of surround myself with more of those players. You know, and what's the saying, Greg? You're the average of the 5 people that you hang around. So just kind of like the coaching thing, right? I got to get a coach. Well, okay, I need to be around different people. So I've kind of positioned myself there, and I love it. And so I'm moving more into that market too, and it's kind of been fun.
So what's some of the things that some of those 5 are doing that you want to start doing or have just started doing?
Yeah, I noticed that they have a lot more builder relationships.
Like the custom kind of builder stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then, that builder investor relationship. So that's kind of been fun to start exploring and look at.
And so is this where you would identify, homes to be remodeled and
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. Yep. Those types of investments that, you can take to a builder and then maybe it's a bigger piece of land and then they can, split it and build 3 homes or build 2. So
Gosh, I was driving down Tatum last night. And is that turned into 44th?
yeah.
Right, so it's coming down, going down towards Global Ambassador, and right on the left, like me and my wife are driving, and it's just an eye catcher because it's all of a sudden you just see this vacant lot and a dumpster,
And it's
right?
coming.
And you're looking, and you just see the mountains right behind it, and she goes, "That's going to be a ridiculous view."
Yes.
So using your skill set of that door knocking, cold calling, etc., to find those opportunities, that's a great one. Have you been trying to find some builders to build that relationship with?
Yeah, I think that through that network of being at RETSY, I think that's really kind of been the difference too, is it's just all right there,
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, going back, other than I like to say, like, what's your playbook now for your current business, right? So you have your sphere, you're doing your events. What's some of the other things that you have as a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually rhythm for your database?
Oh, for my database, like I kind of have a birthday program together, so everybody in my database gets a birthday card with something in it.
What's something that might be in there?
Oh, I usually just do a gift card somewhere.
Okay.
I mean, currently we're, Starbucks,
Okay.
I
Cool. It's
mean,
fun to get stuff on your birthday.
that's what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
like, I wish I would get more, cards in the mail.
Yeah.
It's fun. So that I do, and then I'm like focused on like a quarterly small event. So like that sound bath or sound healing thing.
Yeah.
So I'll put together something for next quarter and, host people for it. And then, I think I'm just such a social person in general that, like I said, I'm sort of operating my business through my life. So I'm just more intentional about those conversations, like when I see people at Violet School, at, wherever I'm going,
Yep.
whatever I'm doing.
Do you have any sort of a system of like, I pull a list and call my database?
Well,
Or is it just when they come top of mind, you're calling them, or you're driving through a neighborhood, like, I remember them?
yes,
And it's more like that.
I'm a little bit more
Spontaneous.
like that. I'm a
It's
little bit more
spontaneous.
spontaneous. Yes.
Okay.
It is my goal to be a little
But the
bit
main
more.
structure is I've got the birthday program and I do my quarterly events.
Yeah, I mean, and then I do like a newsletter and,
Oh, what goes in
like-
the newsletter?
yeah, like Candace's Corner, like, talk about my life a little bit and then,
Okay. So
what,
something personal.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I want them to, keep up with me in case we've missed each other,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is that mailed or emailed?
Email.
Okay.
So, and then, obviously, what's going on in the business, like recently solds, actives.
Yeah.
Like when I took the trip to Greece, then I put like a couple of Forbes properties in Greece in the newsletter. So that was kind of fun for people.
Yes.
You know?
That's nice.
Yeah. So stuff like that. So I do that.
Is that monthly?
Yes.
Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
else? That's some great stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess that's it, really.
Okay.
I mean, I am a little bit more spontaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so your events, right? So do you is your next one already planned, or you haven't thought about?
Spontaneous, huh? It's coming
okay.
now.
All right. We're at least coming into the fall where you can do more outdoor stuff.
Yeah.
Versus before you're like, man, it's got to be something indoor.
Indoors, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we have that. We have luxury. Is there any other pillar of business that we're missing?
Well, I also have been getting very intentional about my agent referral business.
Okay.
It's been a pillar that I've wanted to tackle for a long time, and I just didn't. So now I have that similar newsletter going out to them every month, and then calling, and then I try to really.
Where do you have that list? Where did you get the list of agents?
Oh, it's just over the 11 years of making friends at real estate events that I
Okay.
would go to, Tom Ferry events, or.
So this is across the whole country.
That's right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
can help anybody purchase a home, right? I've got
Yeah.
partners in every market.
Yeah.
So,
So you're staying top of mind with realtors out of state.
yeah.
Nice. Do you have some in-state realtors that are in there too?
Yeah. All my Tucson peeps and,
Mm-hmm.
some of the mountain towns too.
That's great.
Yeah.
I like that it's very calculated. It's not much of an edit off of your other newsletter.
Nope. Pretty similar. I mean, it's more targeted like, hey, check out what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you doing? You know,
Oh, I like that.
so it's a little bit more collaborative. And then I'm gonna start like featuring one of the agents in the newsletter,
Ooh.
so that, hey, like if you're an agent, you get my newsletter and you don't have a partner in Denver,
Mm-hmm.
now all of a sudden, you can call Alan Strange in Denver.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So
Have you thought about doing something like this where you interview them maybe on Zoom, and
I
then
did have
maybe you
that
do some
thought.
highlights in your corner, but then you also say, hey, here's the link to our video?
I did have that thought actually yesterday. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't take too much time.
No.
And you're already talking to them anyways,
Yeah.
getting the information from them. So
Yeah.
you could do like, hey, you want to jump on a 15, 20-minute Zoom and just talk?
Yeah.
And then that can be linked in there. And you
Yeah.
can put the highlights in your email. It's a
wouldn't-
clickable link for them just to go straight to the YouTube channel, and
Oh, and I would absolutely click that link. Like, what are they doing in their business?
Yeah.
What could I learn really quick?
that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe because like Kevin and Fred, they
Yeah.
started their whole Facebook community many, many years ago, and it's like a community. So you could start a Facebook group
Oh,
that's
yeah,
closed,
with all the agents.
but it's all those agents. You have something to invite them to, and then you can collaborate within there. That might
love
be
that.
something too much to manage, but that's just an idea that popped into my head. I'm like, oh, you're creating this community. If you're going to start introducing other agents throughout the community, then why not have a hub
Yeah.
for them to communicate in?
I love that. And you know what? That's why I love working with you. Because you have the best ideas.
Well, they just come out. Like, hey.
I know, but seriously, that's like really the value proposition in our relationship, I think, or yours to me,
Thank you.
is like, I'm like, I can always depend on you for like, to take it just one step further.
There's always another step.
But isn't that what makes us better?
Yes.
You
Well,
know?
and like you said, the sum of the five people, like how do you, if you're around those five people to keep pushing the envelope a little bit in their arena, you can just grab something from there to up your game.
I love it. So good.
There's always something.
It's always something.
And even with the markets evolving so much, and every
Yeah.
market's just a little bit different. I was talking with a gal yesterday in Dallas. Their inventory has doubled in the last 2 weeks.
Doubled?
Doubled.
Is
And
it
I
a
was
small
like,
market?
yeah. Well, Dallas is big.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but her market, she's like, around all these new builds and things like that. She's like, nah, some builders put some of their inventory out. She's like, no, but it's people that are now finally seeing the market move and wanting to move.
Interesting.
And I was like, huh. And I mean, I could easily see that happening here and in multiple markets, but here especially because you're starting to see all the rates are coming down there. And it's one thing 6 months ago to hear, hey, rates will come down, we're almost there, the Fed this, but when it starts to happen, then you're like, oh, it's real. And now that you see, 5.8, 6.2, like that's way easier to move from my 3% to my 5% versus 3 to 7
Yep.
or 3 to 8, right? As everybody knows, payment shock, it's just the number itself is like, no, I'll wait. But now they're like, oh, I think this might be the time. And I think this also is the opportunity because we all know that when it comes down anymore, more people come into the market to buy. So
Yeah.
I should list my property that's got a ton of equity right now and start looking for my next one. And so that's why this gal, her name was April. She's like, no, I've been calling my clients and they're all like, yeah, I think we're ready to go now. Mm-hmm. And it's more and more. But to double your inventory in 2 weeks is just an astounding number.
That's pretty crazy. I've noticed our inventory has creeped up too. I don't know that it's quite doubled, but I have noticed that. And I had that conversation with Brandon. He's like, is it just me? Or I said, no, it's not just you. There's a small selling window right here in the fall, and people are back in town, and so this is a little bit of time where inventory does increase. I said, but it is interesting because there's some buyers still like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, it's perfect for you now that the inventory is.
He hits the right time.
He
Get some
hit the
closing
perfect
costs.
time. Yes,
Yeah.
yep. I got him
Yeah.
closing costs. I mean, I pushed hard for him. It was good.
Yes, you did.
I'm super happy for him.
And that gal, the property is her daughter's rental property. She moved a year or two ago,
Yeah.
and so they were looking just to get rid of the property. She's like, I just didn't want the maintenance anymore. I was done with the property, and I'm sitting there in the back of my head going, why? Like that's going to be worth even more money next year,
Yeah.
But again, and she's in the business.
Yeah.
But everyone has their reasons.
Well, I was gonna say that point earlier. Like there is an appropriate time to sell. And so, that's always what I like to try to discover. Are we moving are we moving the money? Are we moving the asset to a different play where it can make us more money, like into another house?
Yeah. Right.
Or something else, or a business, or something that is useful, not just to
Yes.
sit in the account and spend it,
Right.
you
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
or buy silly things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Liabilities,
Yeah. Is
So-
it going into another good debt?
Yeah, right.
Well, that's what I did. I mean, I don't wish I kept mine, because the only way I was getting my next property
Yeah.
was to use all that
Yes.
equity to buy the next one. But the next one, moving that money, the new asset can grow way more
Larger.
than the last asset. So that was a very strategic on my part for that piece. So there's got to be I like the word intention. There's an intention to where that money's going.
Yeah.
And whether you're able to keep it and rent it out and grow your portfolio that way, or if you're going to intentionally take that off the table, move it somewhere else, but that asset's going to grow even more than what you could have done in the other
Yes.
investment,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, and then you grow, and then you have that, like the line from that, right? The line of equity that you could then pull from,
Yes.
and do something else again.
Yes.
So it's just like this, like,
Well, it's a Monopoly game.
yeah, yeah,
It's just better when you know the rules and you know the game, and you have someone who's mastered the game to kind of show you the way.
yeah.
And with clients like Brandon, or the clients that have small businesses or have a family to run, they don't have the time to research
No.
all this stuff and to research loan products and programs of how can I even leverage that. I didn't know I could do a bridge loan, or I didn't know I could do equity out of my house. I have people all the time like, I don't want to move from my 2% interest rate. And I was like, totally. Well, why don't we do a second? And like, what's that? And I'm like, oh, they don't know. And sometimes we take it for granted. So that's why we
Sure.
do a lot of the videos and the content and stuff to people to educate them with those little glimpses. So then they can come and say, hey, I like that. That might be an idea. Would that work for me?
I love that. Well, that's what they have us for. Maybe they just don't know to reach out, and the videos are a really great way and they might not even be consciously thinking of it,
Yes.
so it gets their awareness on it, like, oh, maybe I should think about that. Oh,
Yeah.
I just thought it was, something that was impossible.
Have you ever thought about doing like because you go to, I want to hire a coach that's gone there, right? Been
Yeah.
there, done that, and that can help me and has failed a lot, because they
Yeah.
can tell me what not to do.
That's right.
Have you ever thought about putting on like investor workshops for your clients or even the public?
No, but I mean, I'm sure you're talking me
There's
into
another
it
idea.
right now. I know you're talking me into it right now.
Well, I mean, it's a suggestion, but also I was wondering if you had, because you obviously you'd be good at it, because you can show people like, hey, here's what I did. Here's when I bought this one. Here's what it's worth. Here's the rent I get. Here's how much I pay on my mortgage.
Yep.
It's a real life example to take someone through your journey, but show them what their journey could look like. And then you can also take them through an exercise of, hey, look, like I just pulled up this property today just to show you an example. If someone was to buy this property with this much down, this is the payment. Here's the average rents in the market. Here's how much you'd be making. Even if you broke even, you'd have the tax benefit, you'd have the appreciation. Here's what it would look like in 5 years. Here's where rents are projected to go. Like you could do a 30-minute thing just to the database
I think that's a
to
really
show them how
great
to leverage their assets.
idea. Yeah, you'll come, right?
I'll come. I'll do the math.
I knew it. Good.
But I think it's
Let's
a
do that.
missing piece for both you and I, of our business, to just educate them even more about just the power of real estate and how much they can really accumulate even more wealth than they already are. Because our clients are already accumulating wealth in real estate. Their houses are appreciating. It's going up.
Yeah.
They'll have a nice nest egg, so to speak, when they go to retire. They've got something to work with in there. But what if they were also along the way said, well, let's play Monopoly.
Yeah.
Let's pick up that piece. Let's pick up Park Avenue. Let's pick up Broadway. Let's pick up, whatever.
Well, I love the thing. I think it was Gene Rivers. He's an agent out of Florida at KW, and he used to say, if everybody like who has a small child would just buy one rental property for each kid in those early years, they'd have the college fund.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm like, oh man, I think that was also part of like that, self-awareness thing where I was like, oh, I went to college, ended up dropping out because I didn't have money to stay.
Wow.
So that's also why I was like, oh, I got to get a house. I got to get more than one house,
Yes.
so that I have money for Violet.
That's so good.
So if everybody did that, then like, You
Yeah.
have way more than you would need for college.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
so one of my buddies did that. He bought 2 houses for his 2 kids for their education later, and he thought, I'm going to sell these to put them through college.
Yeah.
And then when it came time, he was making enough money off of the properties
Yeah.
that he didn't have to,
Right.
and then just started buying more. He's got over 100 doors now.
Ay,
Could you imagine?
goals. Yes, I can imagine.
Just kept going. He's like, well, it's just a system. I'm just going to
Just
go.
a system.
It's just a system. And having, like I was asking you, that predetermined formula of what I'm looking for in a property to make it almost foolproof of like,
Yeah.
well, look, if you buy it in the right neighborhood, it's the right price point, you get some closing costs, you're near a church, you're near a school district, you're near a hospital, you're near the grocery stores, you're walking distance to
Freeway
a park,
access.
like this is close to the freeway, right? Like fit that criteria and chances
No-brainer.
are you're going to be able to rent that thing out pretty good, and you can pull up what's the rental demand in the area, so you'll know we're going to get this thing rented out pretty quick and you'll be making this much money.
Yeah.
And so when you have the formula that you put in place and you just keep running that play over and over and over, all you're doing is waiting for that appreciation to grab more equity to then do something else.
Yeah.
Or maybe you have 401k. So I've rolled 401ks into self-directed IRAs and
Okay.
taken that money to buy real estate.
Yeah.
So you can do that. We have clients that take loans against their 401k. They're paying themselves back for the
Over
401k loan, and then they take the 50 grand that they got from that and use it on a down payment for the house.
I think that's why you're such a great partner to have, because I can just give you the client and go like, here's our goal. Can you figure out the financial piece that what makes most sense for them, given all their pieces, and get it figured out, because I think sometimes people just aren't aware of the things they can do. Maybe they don't even
Yeah.
know that they could take a loan against their 401k.
Right.
And how does it, and I think it's overwhelming for people to think about, okay, well, if I'm making that payment and this amount and that rate, it's like you can make sense of it very quickly for them. And so it breaks it down so it doesn't feel as overwhelming,
Yeah.
because
Try
the
to
process
simplify.
is overwhelming,
It is.
but
It
that's
is.
what we're for,
Yeah.
to be able
We're
to
the
help
buffer.
them. Yeah.
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 Yeah. The guide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
But then
dumb it
also
down.
that is like you is future pacing them to, hey, this is what this is going to look like in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. Or what do you have, like 7 more years of your daughter in school?
Oh yeah. She's in 5th grade.
So you got, yeah. So you're
Yeah.
6, 7, yeah.
7 more
so
years.
7 more years. So you imagine that of what does that look like in 7 years for her? Where's my house situation in 7 years? And then what? She's got options, right? So she's going to stay in state. So does she go into one of the properties?
Yeah.
Does
right.
she rent it out to some roommates?
Yep.
If she goes out of state, am I looking for property there?
Yep.
Like that's okay. It's the same formula.
Same formula.
Are they near the school, near the highway, near the
right.
grocery store, near the hospital, near the park, right? Like same formula. I'm just going to place it there.
Yep.
And when you add in, your referral network out of state,
Yeah.
I can call and say, what's a good property manager out there?
That's right.
And it's built into the cost analysis.
Yeah.
So there's all this. It sounds weird, but I know you do this. But to think 7 years down the road, I just want to have more options. What I don't want to do is 7 years down the road be like, honey, if you don't get
wish.
financial aid, you got to stay in state. And if you stay in state, we can only do this, and it's just the only option,
Or you got to go to community college.
right? I
Yes.
need you to get some Pell grants and things and go to community college, and then I'll keep saving more. And versus you get there and you're like, where do you want to go?
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And the rental income is going to pay the majority of it, or let's sell that one.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
it's all
Or
done.
you just get a line on the.
Or I pull off and I
you
write
go.
off my mortgage interest,
That's
and I
right.
pay for your entire school.
That's right.
Yeah, get financial aid with no payment, no interest, and then at the end of your 4 years, we'll pay it off,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
So that with equity comes options.
Well, I think that's what I see in real estate. It's like I always tell people, just get in where you can get in.
Yes.
This is not your forever home. I do not need you to be in love with it. I just need you to be able to live in it.
Yeah.
Can you live here?
It's not your forever home.
It's not your forever home. Can you live here for 2 years? How about that play? That's another investor scenario. I have an agent friend, and he basically buys a property and sells it every 2 years in one day
Wow.
because he doesn't have to pay capital gains. So then he just rolls it in, and that's how he's been able to build, and now he's buying PV houses
Wow.
because he
That's
just
strategy.
started out small.
Yep.
And his poor wife, because then they renovate it while they're living there. I don't know, but
Oh my gosh. Probably used to it by now,
yeah.
but man, that's got to be hard.
But to move every 2 years, I mean, that's definitely a commitment. But I mean, it's
But
a
look
way.
at where they're at.
It's a way because you basically just roll that equity. You don't pay capital gains on it, and then you roll it into another property.
And where's your asset now? It, like you said, I'm taking that current asset, moving it to a bigger asset that can have a bigger growth potential.
Yes. Yeah, that's how you really start to expand on a massive level.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, I
an
love
interesting
it.
concept.
I love it.
I'm not quite there because I'm like, oh, to move, I don't know about that.
Yeah. But there's other ways to get there too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
right?
but I
You
guess
have multiple properties
yeah,
that you have now multiple equity positions in.
yeah. I think that was the other thing too. Like, when I look at I don't necessarily live sometimes where maybe I want to, but then I tell myself, I'm like, yes, but you own multiple properties.
Yes.
And so someone else is building that wealth for you. It's like just that's a sacrifice I have to have.
Yeah.
Or am I choosing to have in
To
order
give you more options
Yeah.
elsewhere. Like I'm going to go to Greece.
Yeah. Just gonna take off.
Yeah. And I'll have more options later.
Yeah.
With my kid. Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Man, this has been fun. I'm so happy you came today.
Yeah, thanks for
I
having
appreciate
me.
it.
You're
Yeah,
always
thank you.
Such a pleasure to
Yeah, it was
chat with.
fun.